Do we have our masks on?
Yeah.
So we'll know what period of time we were in.
All righty, so I'm going to start. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this small business happy hour. This is the third edition, and the main intention of it is to bring some professionals and community leaders to the forefront about their experiences during the COVID event, and then how we see the future of business after going forward. So that is what this is all about. My name is Dominica. I've lived off and on in Petaluma for 23 years, for most of the last 23 years. And I have a Petaluma-based company, and we are a consultancy. And really the main goal, the main culture of the company, as well as why I'm doing these now, is because I'm always trying to bring different professionals together to tackle the complicated issues we have in our world, but utilizing different minds, different sectors, because we all virtually need to come together in order to be successful. So that's kind of the culture of my company. And so that's one of the major reasons I am here. And Elise, did you want to introduce? I think you know everyone, but did you want to introduce yourself for the record, or do you want individuals to start?
Let's go individuals, and then I'll catch up after everybody else has kind of introduced themselves.
Cool. All right. So the first person I have is Linda. Maybe your name, your affiliation, and one thing you want to learn.
Is it Lindy Brown? Is that?
Oh, Lindy. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Sorry in advance if I can't read.
Okay. Lindy, and I'm a volunteer with Village Network and Pengrove Social Firemen.
Okay, Shadi.
I am Shadi Shamsavari. I am personal coach, leadership coach, and consultant at Human Remedy. And I also do a lot of different volunteering in our community.
Okay. Anne.
I'm Anne Greenblatt. I'm the president of the board of the Village Network of Petaluma.
Oh no, now things are reshuffling. Okay, Scotty.
I'm Scotty Klust, and I'm also with the Village Network of Petaluma. I've lived in Petaluma for 8 years now.
Okay, Barbara. Oh, you're muted. Here, let me hear.
What?
There you go. You're unmuted now.
Oh, I'm a trust and estates attorney in Petaluma, and I'm also a board member of the Village Network.
And Cindy.
I'm Cindy Thomas. I am a board of directors chair for Petaluma Community Access, and I've been here for 30 years, and I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm retired in real life from Kaiser Permanente. I was with environmental health and safety and infection control, so this COVID thing is really exciting for me.
Glenn. Let me try unmuting maybe.
I'm here. Glenn Ilian, Top Speed Data. We own a telecommunications consulting company here in town. We do a lot of work with the nonprofits and businesses here in town, and actually further out than that. And I've worked a lot with Elise in the past.
Cool. And Catherine?
I'm Catherine Wells. In my real job, I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. I'm serving as immediate past president, I guess, of Petaluma People Services Center with Elise. And I also do some volunteering and board work here in Petaluma.
And is it pronounced Meetham?
Thank you. Meetham Clement with the Salvation Army here in Petaluma. Great to be here.
Okay. And then, so we just had someone join us. David, did you want to do a quick introduction?
I work with the Salvation Army here in town. And I just saw Meetham there, so I'm sure he's mentioned us. So I'm here just to hear how things are in town. I've been working with the Salvation Army for about 15 years, and that's all I can really think to say.
And David forgot to mention he's my private beer maker.
Nice.
Next batch in about 2 weeks.
And you with quality printing,
And quality printing, yeah.
our wonderful printers.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I got everyone. The names were shuffling as people were talking. So let's move on to Elece.
Great. Thank you for having me, and thank you for inviting me to this fun event. You know, it's you know, we were extra busy to begin with at Petaluma People Services Center, and 2020 was one of those years that started out. We tackled a new project in January when Mentor Me became a program of Petaluma People Services Center. We thought that was going to be our big news of the year. In fact, our Rock and Roll theme was "Our vision is clear," and so no. But you know, at PPSC, most people don't know and recognize all the different programs we have. We currently have 67 programs that we provide in our community, backed by almost 72 different kinds of grants with county, state, and federal government to provide a variety of social services, including senior services, employment programs, housing programs, youth programs. We also run the Petaluma Bounty Farm. And so we're very busy, even during a non-pandemic. I will tell you that you know, like you and all of you, in mid-March, early March, when we started to kind of hear the news that this virus was coming, we really didn't give it a lot of thought. I mean, we knew that we would probably have to change some of the ways that we were going to do things, but we didn't imagine that all of our employees, or most of our employees, would be working from home. We did take some action before the state of California, and actually even before the federal government took some action, and decided that it was not safe to have our congregate dining or our senior cafe open. So prior to the shelter in place, we started doing meal delivery. So our meals were able to be picked up by the seniors who come to our senior cafe and pick those up. It was a change. It was a change for our seniors. They couldn't understand why they didn't want to do it. But in that conversation with those seniors, letting them know why we thought it was important, and we truly thought, we told them it'll be like 3-4 weeks at the most, and you'll all be back here having lunch with us. The seniors shared that one of the things they were most concerned about is they were going to miss their ability to talk to their friends. They love the food at the senior cafe, but they really like the connection. And so truly on the fly, standing in front of the seniors, I said, well, we'll just have volunteers call you. And so that program, which is now called You're Not Alone, started out was just going to be 30 of our seniors getting a daily call, and some of our Meals on Wheels recipients, is now over 1,000 people in Sonoma County, almost all of seniors in LA County, and the entire state of Connecticut are part of our program. So we are reaching far and deep into connecting with these seniors and giving them something to look forward to. And I know some of you on the calls are on the happy hour are making some of the calls, and it's pretty amazing what's happening. Like, for example, we have one senior who, in conversation with her caller, shared that, well, first of all, she shared that all of those seniors who were sad about missing their graduation should toughen up. She was escaping Nazi Germany, and that's really missing your graduation. And then in the conversation, she shared that she really felt that she'd lost contact with her brother. She hoped that he was still alive in Germany, but she didn't even know. And so she and her caller went on a mission to connect them, and they have connected now, and they hadn't talked in 45 years. So it's pretty amazing when you start to think about some of those kinds of things that are happening. So of course, our Meals on Wheels program had to stay intact. I will tell you that now we're serving, normally we would serve about 4,000 to 5,000 meals a month. We're over 10,000 meals a month now. And the number kind of flattened out the last couple of weeks, but it spiked back up again. And we couldn't do it without all of the amazing volunteers we have. We had to change all of our protocols and how we had to do the services. I was telling Kat yesterday that the person who coordinates our program over there at the Meals on Wheels site, he's 70 years old himself. And he never had to use Excel, and he had to learn Excel in 3 days in order to be able to now run his routes using Excel. So it's been pretty amazing how the team has stepped up. We have limited the number of volunteers that we're using in our Meals on Wheels program, which puts a little more stress on our staff, but it's been doable. Again, everything's doable until you start to think, oh, this is going to go for a year, and then it starts to get a little scary. We did have to shut down our Mentor Me program. They are back now doing some mentoring via Skype and Zoom. But the beauty of the Mentor Me program is this connection with an adult. And one of the things that we've learned through all of this is how not just seniors and not just kids, everybody kind of craves being around other people and that connection. And that's why, I say, we were just talking earlier about new words that we're going to use. I don't call it social distancing anymore. It's physical distancing. We are still socializing, and we've got to make sure that we continue to do that and make those connections with people. Our employment programs, which really work with youth who have dropped out of school or maybe have a learning disability and have struggled to get through school, maybe parenting, drug and alcohol. Those programs, we saw a huge increase in the kids starting to participate. Our theory was that their parents were now working from home and they needed to go do something because they didn't want to be around the house, because they used to have free reign of their house and they wanted to get out of their house and not be around their parents. And so they started reaching out early on. The Sonoma County and California EDD, filing for unemployment, became very, very hard at the first wave of layoffs and unemployment. And so our staff that work with our employment team actually spent probably 3 weeks helping people file for their unemployment, which was a needed necessity that we figured we just needed to help out, because people were calling and they were desperate. They couldn't get through. They didn't have phones. They couldn't use the computers. Our Bounty Farm program, you can't tell plants to wait. And we had in April our fundraiser that is always the plant sale, which is our biggest fundraiser of the year. And so we decided we would do it electronically. And this is kind of how naive you are. You think, oh, it'll be simple. We'll have people go on the website. They can pick out the plants. And, we have way too many varieties of plants. We know that now. But we can pick out their plants, and then we'll assign them a time to come pick it up. So on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock is when we told everybody they could go online and order it. And it was like 9:02 when I got a call from Susie, our director of the Bounty Farm, and she said, "We killed the internet. We've killed the internet. The whole system is down." And it was down in Petaluma. It was really quite a phenomena. And people were going in and supporting us by going and saying, "Oh, I just need one tomato plant," which is kind of great, and we raised more money than we ever thought we would raise. But it was an absolute nightmare. I know that Glenn's partner, Anthony, came down and helped us volunteer to hand out the plants. And when we ran out of the certain plant, the whole thing was the volunteer could then just grab a different plant or a similar one or a different variety. But when you have 45 varieties of tomatoes, she's like, I don't know which is a similar one. This is crazy. So we did that. And we also did that. You know, we're lucky to have a crazy neighbor down here at our main office, and Bug at Heritage Salvage came marching over one day with a camera, and he said, I have a plan. We're going to vanquish the virus with veggies. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, Bug, I got work to do. And he's like, no, this is going to be a real thing. And so Bug didn't lay off his employees. He put them to work using all of the extra wood that he has on his at his facility, and they made garden boxes. And then Bug went to Friedman's and got dirt donated, and somebody else donated the wires, and we threw in some plants from the Bounty Farm, and 100% of the planters that we sold was going to go to support our Meals on Wheels program and our Bounty Farm. Again, we never expected, we had 123 boxes, and in 10 minutes we sold out. And so Bug had to start asking volunteers to come down and start making boxes. And so it was a pretty amazing show of how this community can come together and support and help nonprofits do that kind of work. I would love to tell you that on top of all of those things, everything ran smoothly. Like, we didn't have any power outages, and we didn't get robbed at the senior cafe, and we didn't have some clients in pretty desperate straits, but that didn't happen. Every day we've showed up, and every day it's been like, now what's going to be the issue, you know? And so it's been interesting to kind of work through those different issues. I just saw Dave. Yes, Dave did all the printing of those posters. Thank you, Dave. At Quality Printing, we got to get that pitch in. They did. It was an amazing community effort to get that done. We also were blessed to be able to partner with the city, and they diverted some of their community development block grants. So we've been able to provide rental assistance to individuals and families in our community living in Petaluma who've been impacted by COVID-19. And our idea was that when the recipient of the grant or the funding came in and made their request, we had to call the landlord, and then we would negotiate with the landlord. So I would initially call the landlord and say, we can pay 25% of this individual's rent. If you can take another 10% off, we'll pay 35%. And there hasn't been one landlord who said, no, I don't want that deal. They've all done that. So they're all contributing to making sure people are staying housed, which is pretty impactful. We got that grant in May, and by the end of this month, we will have spent $50,000 to keep people in housing. And there's another $50,000 that we thought we wouldn't have to use, but based on where we're going with more shutdowns, we'll probably have to use those dollars in order to keep people in their housing. The beauty of them coming in and getting connected into the housing, though, is that then they are connected to all of our additional services. They're connected to, if they're a senior, our case management team, and they're going to be able to get meals and access to other programming. If they're a family that needs food and needs to go to find out when food's being distributed at Salvation Army or at the Interfaith Food Pantry, they're able to get that information in one stop. We still have very few people working in the office. We do have our therapists are starting to see more and more of their clients in the office. We never stopped physically seeing our foster kids face to face. So we see through our counseling program quite a few foster children that live in Petaluma, and in conversation with their foster parents, we decided that these young kids had so many adults leave their life and over their lifetime, that one more person who they just started with counseling, if all of a sudden they were gone, we didn't want to do that to these children. And so we are providing that. Last year, the Rotaries came together and created a sensory garden in our backyard. And we've now put up partitions so we can actually see 4 clients at a time in our backyard. And almost all of them are children. We have a couple seniors that really want to come in and don't like doing it by Zoom. So the children that are in our child protective service programs and our foster care programs, we never ever stopped not seeing them. They still always had some physical contact with their therapist, which is, it touches on something that you know, when we come out of this, there's a lot of things that worry me. One of them is the added trauma that all of our children are being exposed to. And when there's the ACEs test that they give to a lot of kids, which is a 10-point test that talks about trauma and how if you don't take care of that trauma, it will stay with you for the rest of your life. In fact, they use it in the SHARE program. They give the ACEs test to see if somebody has trauma that they've never ever dealt with. And children who are 7 and 8 have been exposed to 2 major fires and the pandemic if they live in Sonoma County. They're already 3s. And most children in their life are naturally 2 or 3s already, just because of things that you're exposed to in life. So an 8 is somebody who needs to have full-time counseling, and our kids are going to be at that point where we're not going to be able to meet the needs of them as they come out of the counseling program. So at this point, let's just open it up to questions, because it's a small enough group. We can take questions. We see Bob down there. You didn't get introduced. You want to introduce yourself, Bob? You might be on mute.
I don't see his name here. Oh, wait, there it is. Well, it won't let me unmute it.
I can just say while he's, oh, there he is. Okay. Good.
Okay, I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
All right. Well, Grant, this is wonderful, Elise. And I see a couple other village members online as well. And what you're doing is just super. And so this hour and a half is so valuable. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Bob. So do you want to open it up to questions or?
Yeah, so let me ask a question first. So, of course, we live in a really cohesive community here in Petaluma, but that's not the case everywhere. And so I'm wondering, kind of in a global perspective, how you see nonprofits business, for lack of a better term, being affected and what it's going to look like going forward, given the fact that we know that there are going to be deeper cuts and all these services are going to be really taxed.
Yep. And the statistic is, and I learned this during the first big fire, because we were about the only agency that was still answering calls, so I had to do some homework. But after a major disaster, 63% of the nonprofits that existed prior to that disaster ceased to exist. And even when you think about it, even Mentor Me was kind of a byproduct of that. You know, they during the first big fires, when everybody was down here living in Petaluma, and they opened up the Kavanaugh site and started to provide shelter and food and all things that are really not part of their mission. It was important that they did it, but it wasn't what they were suited for. And so when they kind of got to the other side, they were not only exhausted, they tapped out their resources. And as each disaster continues to happen, what we're seeing is more and more donor fatigue. And so they were one of those casualties that they needed to find a place to fit in. And so they became a partner of PPSC and now are a program of PPSC. I think we're going to see more of that. If you read today's Argus Courier, you know, Alchemy, which does art and craft programs, and they partnered with us to do some art books to send to our seniors, our homebound seniors, especially those in our adult day program who aren't able to go to our adult day program. But they had to close their doors because their program is about creating art face to face, person to person, and inspiring each other that way. And you just can't get that inspiration in a 1D kind of format. And so I think we will see nonprofits start to look at whether they would be better and stronger together. And so you will probably see some more mergers and some more coming together to facilitate programming. If you run a nonprofit, you know that it's great and you're always successful to get the dollars that you need to provide the programming. You don't necessarily get dollars to turn on the lights, to run the finances, to do the billing, to manage the programs. And so I think what we will see is some combining of different nonprofits so that they have a better way to meet the needs of their clients. Early on when the governor proposed his first round of budget cuts, it was a 14% cut to senior services. Now, keep in mind that our senior services are already way underfunded. And we were underfunded by probably a half of what we needed to provide the 6,000 meals, and now we were moving up to 10,000 meals, and that funding was going to get cut even more. That was a lot of calls to a lot of legislators to see that, get them to see that was not the way to balance the California budget, because you couldn't balance it on the backs of our seniors. And so we are going to see some kind of combining of that. And the other thing I think we're also going to see is how we provide therapy to our residents. One of the unintended consequences of being able to provide counseling to, let's say, a mother who's a victim of domestic violence and in our counseling program is that she no longer had to find babysitters to be able to come and participate in her counseling program. She just had to find a quiet space so she could talk to her therapist online. And so we probably will always move forward with some kind of hybrid in how we provide the counseling services because it's been more effective. We also provide counseling services over at the Mary Isaac Center at COTS, and what we have found is the rate of no-show has dropped dramatically because they can just go and sit outside and get on their phone and have that connection with their therapist. And so instead of trying to get over here to our community clinic. So we've seen that change too. But yeah, we're going to see some combining or nonprofits going away. I think that we're going to see another round of, I'm really worried about the arts, just because when people have to start making a decision on where they're going to give, the arts oftentimes in community fundraising drop below where they need to be. So figuring out, full disclosure, I'm on the board of the Petaluma Historical Museum, and I'm concerned. Their dollars come from people coming in and participating or going to a concert there, and we're going to see those kinds of things flatten out again. So I am concerned about that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm one of those nuts that works mostly in government, and we're already seeing a dependency on local taxes being the solution. And we'll see, because it looks like there was a lot of tax fatigue in our last voting round, where even fire services the tax wasn't approved, and some of those other things. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, of course, everybody wants my opinion on this, and behavioral health is way underfunded, mm-hmm. and they dug themselves into a big deep hole. But a sales tax is regressive, and that's going to put the tax to pay for the counseling on the backs of the people who need the counseling. And so I'm really concerned about that kind of model. And and I raised that issue. The problem is property tax. You have to tax so much more for those property taxes to actually raise the money that you need. And I think that, you know, that's when we have to look outside of just our Sonoma County, and we provide services in Marin County, but Sonoma and Marin County, but we have to look at a regional solution or a state solution to some of those bigger issues like behavioral health and those who are unhomed. Did I say it right? You know, so you know, it's those are going to have to be initiatives that make a change. And I've been at PPSC long enough to live through a recession, and I also know that those cuts don't mean that we are dropping the services. We're still required to provide the same amount of services, if not more. They're just giving us less money to do it with, and we're already underfunded. So, you know, it's a frightening thing to think about. And yeah, I mean, there's not enough money already to go around for behavioral health. So I don't know how taxing ourselves is really going to be a solution. I'm sure that we'll figure it out, but it is something that we need to really consider. And I know that they moved forward, the Board of Supervisors moved forward with putting that on the ballot along with transportation tax. I'm guessing the city of Petaluma is going to do some kind of tax, because I'm getting those lovely flyers that ask, how are we doing as a community? So I think it's bigger than taxing our way out of the solution. And don't get me wrong, I'm a tax and spend liberal. I'm probably the biggest tax and spend liberal on this call right now. But at the same time, there's a capacity level that we can expect from our residents that we have to balance too.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So yeah, we'll open it up for questions. I think we're a small enough group that I can just let people unmute themselves and ask away.
I will talk to one thing that came up, and we didn't get to do it. So, you know, the city of Petaluma in January decided that they weren't going to do the fireworks for the nonprofits, and that was kind of a hot button. But in a community that's burnt down twice now in 3 years, it seemed like a no-brainer. And we were excited. PPSC was going to be the lead with all of the nonprofits that had the fireworks stands and any of the other nonprofits that wanted to partner. And we're still going to do it. It's just going to be next year. It's going to be the launch of our 3-on-3 basketball tournament. So I grew up in Spokane, Washington, and up in Spokane, they have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament that has been going now for 40 years. And that tournament raises enough money in a weekend that none of the nonprofits in Spokane have to throw a gala event. None of the nonprofits, it's the only fundraising. And I just saw the numbers. They had to cancel theirs. It's usually the first week of August. They usually bring in about $45 million of TOT or transportation or tourist dollars with that tournament too. So our plan was to hold it at the fairgrounds the day of the 4th of July, and then it would have the fireworks. The music festival would be happening at the same time. So that will go on. You know, we're committed to that, and so we will make that happen. But it's those kinds of things that I think we're going to start to see how we raise money a little bit differently too as nonprofits. And that, you know, if we pool our resources and pool our brain power to do one giant community event, it's great for the community, and then it's great for all of us because we learn a little bit more about what each other's doing too.
Alrighty. Does anyone have any questions, comments, jokes? I don't know. Lighten it up.
Lighten it up. I'm sorry. It's hard.
I started it. No, I started it. I asked the question.
Go ahead, Scotty.
I was wondering about the adult day program that you run. I know you've had to close it, but what does the future look like?
Well, so we've had some ongoing conversations with county health to see when we can bring it back. Because I do get a call. Our adult day is a respite for those who are taking care of loved ones who have dementia or Alzheimer's. And that's really hard work. And if you're now sheltering in place, it's even harder work. And we get calls probably at least once a week from loved ones saying, it's kind of worth the risk. Can we open it up for them? Because we just need a break from these seniors. And so Catholic Charities is running a pilot, and we're going to see for the next 2 weeks, they're going to try to do it virtually. I think that's really hard for seniors who have cognitive issues to really kind of connect into a virtual program. So we've got to figure out some way to bring them back, even if it's fewer at a time and we just do it in the backyard, or we use the sensory garden here at PPSC, because those loved ones need breaks. You know, one of the things that we are noticing is that seniors who are sheltering in place, they're losing their cognitive ability faster. So I always say they're getting older faster. So when they come out of this, they're going to be older, and trying to figure out ways to engage them so that they don't lose that cognitive. One of the subcommittees I'm working on right now with the county is there's not been a lot of direction given by any of the health departments or the CDC on how to bring seniors kind of back into the, into some kind of socialization, whether it be 2 or 3 at a time. And so many of our apartment complexes that are specifically designed for people 60 and older, even those who are very high end, they're just leaving those seniors in their rooms, dropping off their mail and their food at their door, and they're not allowing them out of their homes. So we've got to do better at advocating for them and helping the apartment complexes. PEP does a good job, but a lot of those, like Vintage Chateau, they are 60 and older complex. Most of them are low income. They have one case manager for all of their properties throughout California. And that case manager now can't travel to those properties. And so there's not a lot of connection with those seniors. And honestly, they're being held hostage in their homes. And so hopefully we'll be able to provide some guidance on how to move forward with giving people an opportunity to at least engage. And, Sade makes our daily calls, and so if you are a caller and you are making a daily call, you get a daily reminder from me, and sometimes it's a call to action. And the other day, the call to action was, as a senior, it's okay to say to a loved one, I love you, but I still can't see you because I don't know where you've been. That's a really hard thing for people to do, is to draw that line. When their grandkids show up, I fell privy to it. The grandkid came by and they were just going to wave in the car, and I'm like, well, come in, you got to have a little ice cream. All of a sudden you're breaking all the rules, and you just can't do that. So we have to give ourselves permission to say, I can't do that. Yeah, and that's hard. Anne, do you have a question?
Yeah, well, we've obviously had to pivot really quickly in the village with our 122 members and 100 volunteers. There's some overlap too, but we found that social connection is just rock bottom important. And we've done a lot of online Zoom programs to try to get people connected, and writing groups, and the retired nurses group, and an art workshop that we have, which is actually Des' workshop, work online. My question is just, we really want to partner with more senior services in the community and see how we can leverage what we have to offer, which is, a strong connection kind of network with what's going on. And I know that you have your program of phoning, and that's fabulous. I think we're particularly looking at intergenerational possibilities and Mentor Me. It's tricky, but it's one of the avenues that we really want to explore.
And I love that, because that's one of the things that when Mentor Me was going to become a program of ours, it's like, look, we have so many seniors that we really want to connect. And it harkens me back to, we used to have a very robust friendly visitor program, and I just put dotted the last I and crossed the last T and sent off a grant earlier today to bring back a program called Friendship Works. And it was based on high school students who were required to do 10 hours of volunteer work. So we teamed them up with, let's say a young lady wants to learn to crochet, and so she would go visit a senior who taught them to crochet. And the beauty of that story with them is so they learned to crochet, and they started making these beautiful scarves after they all ran out of, everybody they knew had scarves, and everybody at Casa Grande had a scarf, and everybody had a scarf. They came to me and they said, what should we do now? We need to make something else. So they started actually making baby blankets for new babies at cots. So, and that relationship has stayed. It's very similar to the relationship my son had when he first, we was in junior high, and I made him drive Meals on Wheels with me, and he found a senior that he became a friendly visitor for. Well, that program kind of had died off. And so we're looking to really bounce that back up. Could be intergenerational or just senior to senior. And if we give them guidelines about visiting, and the visiting is done at a safe distance with the masks and some other things, I think we could also have an opportunity to really kind of build on that and take the You're Not Alone program, once we're able to start kind of seeing each other face to face, and turn it into our Friendship Works program, so that we can benefit those younger people who really need to learn and know how to be around a senior, because a lot of them are not able to be around grandma and grandpas. And so it's a great opportunity. But I love that, Anne. Anne came with the idea when she moved here that she wanted to do the village, and we went down and we did. I participated in a whole program. The thing that's nice about Petaluma is we have a very good, strong social services, senior services program. In a lot of communities, they don't have that kind of robust senior services. And so the village has been a nice partner and connector, and I'm sure it will grow more. 2020 was going to be the year that Petaluma declared itself age friendly, but I'm going to guess that we're going to have to hold off on that for a while. Go ahead, Anne.
That actually brings another burning question for me. Quite a lot of our seniors are saying, I would love to meet with my my phone friend, because we've established a lot more phone friends, with regular contact to keep people going outside. But we can't provide volunteers to drive them. So they're saying, are there pocket parks? Where can I, with benches, can I meet outside with my phone friend in a place I can walk to? And there's a real lack, I think, in Petaluma of benches to sit on.
I know. I get a call every day about the benches that got taken away from in front of Kmart. For some reason, I'm in charge of those benches. Go ahead, Barbara.
So we have so I think we have David has his hands up. I think Cindy had a question, and Barbara. So maybe we'll go Barbara, David, Cindy.
Perfect.
Okay. So just before that emerged, I was going to say about outdoor spaces that just as an example of something that's possible, never I've done, and it was just fabulous. Really don't want any clients coming into my conference space, and there's this feeling And so I told 2 different people, I said, well, I could do a project for you if we could meet outside, coffee, whatever. And I actually went to somebody's backyard, a total stranger with masks and thing, and got to know them. And the same thing with a gentleman who lives in a mobile home park on the east side of Petaluma. And part of my mind was like paranoid and, oh, this is really crazy, Barbara. Why are you doing this? But then I got there. And then these were people. They were lovely. They were grateful. And it made me think, oh, if we really put our minds to it and cooperated, could we create safe outdoor spaces, at least till the rains come?
And that's one of the projects that we're working on with Supervisor Zane is leading that project with Base and the Senior Services Providers Council on Aging and PPSC and the county's Human Services that does this AAA. So there's going to be a whole marketing push and a whole outreach to encourage people to find those safe places to have those conversations where they can engage but not be at a risky distance with each other. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So that we hope to have the first series of them out. I know Chris, I don't know if you saw the newspaper today, Chris Smith did a story today and he spurred the conversation. So we hope to have in 2 weeks a whole series of kind of how people who are seniors or compromised immune system can be connected, but not be in a place where they would be putting themselves in harm.
Well, I didn't even realize how much I benefited. I think that's where it was like, oh, I'm just, whatever. But then I went away and I felt happy and energized. It was a very nice experience.
Yeah. David?
Here I am.
In his backyard. Mine's just on the other side.
I hear a lot about the fact that our phone system and just reaching out and touching people. And on the other side, with all the different groups that I work with, it has been that a lot of people have pulled back because of their age and COVID, being responsible and stepping back. But these folks still need something to do. They really want to reach out and help. Could we not organize like a cross nonprofit list of folks and introduce people? And I don't know, maybe you're meeting the need of people who need just a phone call during the day or not.
And I would encourage, instead of reinventing the wheel, I just encourage anybody to call and say, I want to be a caller. We send them an application, or I want to make a call. And ironically, so I'm hooking the senior up with another caller, and then the senior who this caller will call me back and say, well, the person you gave me is older than me. I want somebody young. So we've been trying to screen, do you care? Who's calling you? And it works the other way. It's really interesting. So every morning I get up and walk with one of my best friends at about 5 o'clock, and she has a senior that she's been calling. And if she forgets to call for whatever reason, he will call her and say, Mary, I'm really concerned about you. Are you okay today? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm just busy. And he's like, well, this call is important to me, but it's also important to you. So you need to make sure that you carve out that time. And so these seniors, and I know Sade's got, I gave her Sade's got a character. I gave her a character, but and his phone was broken, and the first thing he said to me is, can you email her and give her my email address so we can talk via email until my phone gets fixed? So
let me get on with that, because you're right. We should not reinvent the wheel. We don't need to make extra work for ourselves. You have a program. Can't we make an email to this that we, as people who know groups that could participate, could say, here, we need to go investigate this. You need to sign up with Petaluma Peoples. They have folks that would like some company and get it promoted more.
Yep, I will. Yeah, nope, I'll promote it more. I will get you the information. it's interesting. So Localish, the TV channel down in Channel 7 News, I don't know if it's ABC, NBC, I should probably learn, because now I'm their go-to person. So they've done now 3 shows, and they just keep repeating them, and then they play nationally. That's how Connecticut became a program of ours, is the Localish show about our You're Not Alone program was picked up by one of the Connecticut affiliates, and the director of human services called and said, we want this program. How do we get it going? I'm like, just start sending me names and send out the flyer to get volunteers, and we got it done. So
sometimes
yeah.
I don't know that we do enough in business, you also want to mind the clients you already have. You want to make sure that they know what else you can do because they're a warm lead. They already have a relationship. The nonprofits in town, we just need to offer our programs to each other to see where we could also offer those to others that are already in our programs. That's what
now
I feel.
you're right, David, and you're talking my language, and I'm very proud of the work that we're doing with the Petaluma Community Relations and food access. So there's a lot of different organizations that distribute food, but we've never ever been on the same page. We've never ever been partners, and when I'm on the steering committee for the PCRC, when we met and they said, what should we do about COVID-19? How should we address it? It's like, let's bring everybody who distributes food together to find out, is there a more need that we're not meeting? And if so, what can we do to address it? Can we be more efficient as a group? Are there different ways to build efficiency? And let's learn what each other is doing. I mean, it always surprises me when people say, you don't get donated food for Meals on Wheels. It's like, no, I got federal money. I got to buy the expensive stuff. I even have to buy the expensive stuff with the unfederal money. So, it's always hard.
But I'm really clued in on little projects that we all have, like your phone project.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to get out there and spread that amongst the other nonprofits to make sure that everybody who wants to be touched is touched.
Yeah. And I'm going to give a shout out to Glenn, because we're ready for the fires next time, because, we coordinate all of the emergency volunteers for the fires. And Glenn and Top Speed Data put in a phone system called Jive. And the beauty of Jive is that if you've got an internet connection, you can take your office phone and connect it to wherever you are. So our receptionist may not be sitting in our lobby every day, but she's answering the phone from home on her phone system, so she can see when Craig at the Meals on Wheels Center is on the phone. And so that Jive computer software system for our phone has been amazing. And I was just thinking, last year when we provided the distribution hub and managed all the volunteers for the shelters when the Kincaid fire was happening, the city of Petaluma, our great partner, said, you know what, we'll give you the teen center, Elece. You can just use the teen center and you can set up in there. There was no internet and no phone. So every call for the fire was coming in on my cell phone. So now we just have to take our internet system and plug our regular phones in over there, and are be able to run that for the next disaster. So the silver lining is we're ready now with our phone system. Cindy, you had a question.
Oh, actually, I didn't have a question, but I did want to mention that we had Dave King, Petaluma City Council member Dave King, as our guest at the Rotary Club of Petaluma today, and he talked about this proposed tax that's going to be on the ballot in November for Petaluma, and it's a 1 cent sales tax. It's a whole cent.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, by the time you add up all those sales tax, it's going to be a 10-cent thing to buy something in Sonoma County.
Yeah, the county's is a 1/4 cent tax for homelessness and mental health, behavioral health, and an extension of the 1/4 cent tax for transportation, roads, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, if you, somebody introduced me to somebody new in the community, and he did it so politely. It's like, so she's got a grasp on pretty much everything that's happening in our community. And I thought that was a very polite way of saying I'm a busybody. But the one thing I do is I do pay attention to the city finances because I lease my buildings from the city, and I want to know what's happening with our community. And before the pandemic, it was grave. And I can't even imagine what it's going to look like if there isn't any kind of bailout from the federal government for not just our municipality. All of the municipalities in Sonoma County are going to be underwater, and we're not going to be able to survive. And the things that we take for granted will just start to go away. And we all know that if you don't keep up the maintenance, or you don't keep up the infrastructure, or even the skilled employees, it takes 10 times more money to get them back to a place that we remember as stable. So yeah, yeah. Anybody else have any questions? No, I can't. I'm trying to think what the question of the day. Oh, the question of the day today was when I was a young kid, I used to make wishes, and my wishes were usually things like, I would hope my friend Nancy can come over and play with me, or I wish for a Barbie doll with hair that's curly and blonde. And then as I got older, those wishes turned to dreams. And those dreams were, what will I be when I grow up? What will I have as a career? And then as we continue to age, our wishes and our dreams kind of turn into hopes. And when it's a hope, it's really kind of different, because lots of times our hopes are more about, and especially for me, more about how I hope that we're able as a community to survive this, or I hope that seniors feel loved and nurtured, or I hope that children are taken care of in our community. So for me, hope changed dramatically. And when I started this job, which is hard to believe 16 years ago, I was only going to do it for 1 year. So the question of the day is, do you have wishes, dreams, or hopes? Who wants to answer it? Do you have wishes, dreams, or hopes?
All the above.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of almost go back to wishes now, because it's hard. And I think to myself, Dave, what do you do?
I add one more to your list, faith.
What? Faith. Yeah, faith. That's, I think we're seeing more and more need for leadership in that faith arena. And ironically, I grew up in a town where most everybody I knew was a Mormon, and my family went to the Open Door Congregational Church. But when anybody who's a faith leader goes on vacation in Petaluma, I get to fill in for them. So I always think that's ironic. And my son always says, what, do they know that you went to church at the Open Door Congregational Church with 3 other people? I'm like, that's my faith background. I think it's what's in your heart, right? What's in your heart?
I think I have a dream that this pandemic, and it has a silver lining in the way it slows us down, has us look at what's important, is good for the environment, ironically, and that somehow out of this we will pull the things that help us be a stronger community, because and pull together, and I think that's happening.
I do agree with you, Anne. I do think that people are coming together in ways that they would have never come together. The group of nonprofits and faith-based organizations that distribute food, for 16 years, that's been on my to-do list, to have a conversation. And now we have a group that wants to meet monthly. that happened out of this pandemic. That's amazing to me. The other thing that's amazing to me out of the pandemic is through our You're Not Alone calls, we're actually getting more insight into what's happening in our seniors' lives. So that's another plus too. I think, you know, I do worry about our children. Last fiscal year, Sonoma County had 8,523, I think is the number, Child Protective Services calls. And between March and June, there was like 6. And the violence didn't go away. It's just not visual. Those kids aren't showing up at school and that teacher's not noticing it. And so I am worried about our children. I'm very worried about how they're going to come out of this. Because the protective factors that we took for granted, that teacher or my son always called him the yard nard who was out, you know, policing the playground. They were the ones who were recognizing that a child had a bruise on their back or those kinds of things. And that's not happening right now. And so that does worry me. That's a big concern. And you know, it's frightening to see what a year and a half from now, what our conversation is really going to be about. And you know, we invest a lot of money in providing programming that is evidence-based, so we get the same outcome, whoever's providing it. And you know, the programming for children is as far upstream as we used to think we had to be. So let's get to that child before the APS call, so we can provide some parenting classes. You know, we're not seeing the number of parents participating in our parenting classes, even on Zoom. A, because they're exhausted, and B, you know, because they're spending 24 hours a day with their children and trying to work, a lot of them. So I am worried. That's one of the things that keeps me awake at night, is what are our children going to be like, and the cost to treat them when they go through junior high and high school, and probably struggle then through adulthood with this trauma that the pandemic has caused. It keeps me awake at night.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think, yeah, a silver lining out of this for business, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, is that people are going to be forced to work together, which I had hoped in my entire career that you didn't need to be forced. But that's one of the reasons I started my company, because it was about bringing people that want to work together. For the last 8 years that I've had my company, I have a lot of people come to me and say, well, I think I'm going to start a nonprofit. And I say, absolutely do not in Sonoma County. And it has nothing to do with crushing people's dreams. I think in Sonoma County, the nonprofit industry, and Elece, if you know, this was actually before the fires, but it was a $1 billion industry. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what it could be a bad thing is that it's being stretched between 300 nonprofits that perhaps would be better suited with 50, you know, or something along those lines, because having a bunch of very small nonprofits trying to do monumental tasks separated is a very difficult thing to do. It's like providing services with your company. You want to do it well, and you want it to be impactful. And my background is actually in public health. And so I'm thinking about everything from a public health lens, and it's that wraparound holistic approach of specific populations. So I foresee that kind of being the outcome, is that organizations are going to need to work together and be creative and innovative, and how things have been done in the past aren't going to work anymore. I mean, you talked about the fund development. I think fund development is going to look very different.
Completely different.
And
to your point, so you know, a lot of people come to me, because I have a very strong business background before I came here. I was in mergers and acquisitions, and so I and a lot of startup companies. And so a lot of people come to me with great ideas of, oh, this would be a great nonprofit. And If I can't talk them out of, maybe it's better suited as a for-profit, or maybe there's already an existing program that you can attach onto, then oftentimes we serve as their fiscal agent. So we're the fiscal agent for Petaluma City Schools. A lot of people don't know that, because if you want to make a donation to Petaluma City Schools and it goes to the Petaluma City Schools, they take their administrative bump off the top, which is about half of it. And so your donation really only is going to work half as hard as you think it's going to. And so recently we have become the fiscal agents for TIDE, which was a group that came out of the conversation that Petaluma City Schools had with parents and children about how educators may be turning a blind eye to bullying and may not understand that we may not have been born the way we look, kind of thing, and so we're the fiscal agent for TIDE. We're also the fiscal agent for a new group that just started like 2 days before the pandemic. It's Petaluma Pride. We were going to hold our first Petaluma Pride Day parade in September, but we're going to do that next year. And then we are also the fiscal agent for a group that's is Spanish for love one another. And it's based out of the elementary school that is primarily Spanish speaking. And our goal is to take those programs and if they don't become a program of PPSC, give them the backbone support so ultimately they could go out and be their own standalone if that's where they think that they need to be. Ironically, you know, if you go back into the Mentor Me history, their first fiscal agent was Petaluma People Services Center. So when they were raising money initially, it was coming here too. So you know, helping some of these great ideas get going, but also helping them understand that there is a whole network, especially in the nonprofit world, where you don't have to duplicate services is key to how we build sustainability. And so those are important things. And, you know, Anne's heard me go off on this conversation a lot. Those are important in understanding your community. And so that's why it's really important. And some of those nonprofits that we've incubated, for example, Share Sonoma County, you know, they were here for 4 years and got to a point where they felt like they could go out and run it on their own. Probably often enough, I get a call from Amy that says, "Can we come back?" so you know, there's it's hard to navigate some of those waters, especially in the nonprofit world. And I think it's important that we're lucky. I get calls from all over the nation where nonprofits that do one program say, "How do you have 67 programs under one roof?" And it was the forethought of the people who formed Petaluma People Services Center who said, we want it to be an umbrella. We want it to not just specialize in one program. We want it to be able to bring everybody together. And back then they didn't use the word collaborate. And back then they probably didn't even use the word silos. They just thought it was a great idea that somebody walking in the door could get access to all the different programming that's available and not have to go knock on another door to get their programming. And, you know, we're one of the few that has all of those different programs, all those different programming skill sets under one roof. So, you know, that's a big added plus. Any other questions? No?
I can ask the question of how can we clone you?
I think a lot of people wonder that, don't they?
Oh, you know what? The world would be scary if there were a couple more.
No.
The world would be a scary place. You know what? I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the kind of family support that I have. And, you know, I think that that's important for all of us to recognize, especially during COVID-19. And if, you know, I can be a little demanding, you know, so Alan and I, we started dating 13 years ago. And about 11 years ago, we moved in together. I haven't done laundry in 11 years. I'm just telling you.
Hey,
Nice.
I mean, you're
Paul
not just,
said, he irons it, he does it all.
you're not on the couch, okay, just watching TV. So we know you're busy.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll do your laundry.
Well, you know, it takes a community, and you know, community is really important to me. I think one of the things I'm probably going to miss the most this fall is you know, I meet with every freshman at Casa Grande High School and talk to them about getting engaged in their community, and give them a definition of what community can be. And you know, your community is this group of people who are gathered together right now, or it's your larger community of Petaluma or Sonoma County. And it's important for us to recognize that we all are individuals who need to be able to figure out how we fit in and finding that place to fit in. And that's truly the mission at PPSC. We provide programs that strengthen the dignity and self-sufficiency of the individual. That to me is key on how we treat each other.
So true. Well, regarding your concerns about the children, one thought I have is because we are going to continue to teach, you know, if not open the schools, but the teaching will go on, correct?
Yes.
So maybe potentially if you have, which you have incredible influence, would be to invite us, the school district, to consider a different kind of conversation to be had as part of the teachings in the classroom.
Well, you know, it's funny. I was just, you must have been reading my mind this morning on my walk, because before I meet up with my best friend and we catch up on all the gossip and cats, we talked about Cat's kitty cat that she's saving. What was popping in my head is, you know, we have so many young people who have just finished college, maybe were a year into their career, who have so many gifts that they could share. Is there a way that we could leverage them to do some additional, not even mentoring, some additional kind of teaching that these young people need? Because not only are they not getting to play with their friends, they're not getting to have a role model. You know, that role model is such an important part of growing up, you know, that older kid who you want to be like, and they don't get to have that. So if, you know, it's kind of figuring out how we can do that. We also are talking about in our Mentor Me to do peer groups for parents. So we would probably partner with Sonoma Valley as our first, because they have a strong mentor program over there. And we would offer to the parents initially a facilitated peer-to-peer kind of conversation, and then let them be peers with each other. And we're thinking outside of our local communities, because lots of times when you do some peer work or peer counseling, you will share with that peer things that you really don't want to have to look them in the eye at the grocery store, because that's not what that's about. But if you had a peer over in Sonoma Valley and you say, you know, today I really just wanted to go in my closet and scream because the kids wouldn't leave me alone and I couldn't get my job done. And the other peer can say, yeah, you know, I did that and this is how it felt. So go in that closet and scream. And then let's talk about how we dealt with it tomorrow. Developing some kind of peer program for our parents, because it's starting to wear on them. They're working, for sure. They're trying to, you know, there's a reason why they're not teachers.
That's right.
It's hard to be a teacher. And so figuring out how to combine those kinds of programming is really important. But again, and finding balance, you know, and my staff always, my clinical staff always gets crazy with me because I say, oh, I'm practicing mindfulness. I'm not thinking about anything right now. And they're like, that is not mindfulness. Let us do mindfulness with you. But, you know, some of these things that help us be better people in our new kind of surrounding is really important.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, we can talk more about it, but
yeah,
curriculum and content is really important, that it gets a little bit more beyond this, the algebra.
Yeah, and because we're recording this, I'm going to throw this out there because it is on my to-do list before I leave this earth. We will have one school district in Petaluma, if not one in Sonoma County. There's no reason for 9 school districts. Talk about nonprofits not being smart with their money. There is no reason for 9 school districts in Petaluma.
Yes. Okay. Well, you know where to find me. Thank you so much. Good to see everybody.
And thanks for making the call. I know Josh is hard.
I'm seeing him because he says I can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
So,
no, and that's what you need to do because,
I'm going to see him. Okay. Take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Well, does anyone have any last questions, comments before we sign out? All right. Well, I just want to say
I will tell one funny story. So in all of this, we did hire a new director of youth programs who's going to run our Mentor Me program and our youth employment program. And we had to go through the interview process. And so it was myself and my director of operations and Yancy. And so we were asking her all these questions. We have the guided list of questions that you have to ask to make sure it's fair for everybody. And we got to the end and I knew I loved her. And I said to her, so I have one last question. And Devin, my director of operations, is looking at me. There's not another question. I said, do you have pants on? And she stood up and she had her pajama bottoms on. I said, you're hired. That's how we roll. So thank you. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I am going to email out this recording to everyone that was registered, just so if you want to refer to it or send it out to others, feel free. And if you have ideas for future meetings like this, let me know. So they're called small business happy hours, but they aren't just about one type of business type. Like I said, I have my own private company, but I work mostly with government clients. So I'm trying to cover all the bases. So my email was on the Zoom invite that you got. And then I'll be sending everyone out this via email. So.
And when do you go live with your radio show again?
Yeah, that is something. I'm going to start rebroadcasting some shows probably in a couple weeks that are relevant. And then I'm going to try and get back on it. So for those who don't know, I had a radio show every other week, and it was designed to be a nonpartisan show that talks about policy and issues. So trying to take it from a global, non-political standpoint. You, of course, get my opinion, but I really try to use like a data forward analysis of the impacts of policy. So I'm hoping to get back to that. Unfortunately, everything right now is so politicized. I feel like it's a kind of good time for me to take a little hiatus, but I'll definitely be back to it soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.